So what I'm doing right now is a little follow-up on a picture of a rock that I posted the other day, an igneous rock that's from the volcanic activity here. And what was interesting is it makes me think about what kind of timeline actually took place here. And some of these rocks, when you pick them up, you find underneath them exactly what you expect to find in the forest. Underneath them will be little critters, things that are growing there. And you'll also find the vegetation beginning to return to the soil. And then there's some others that when you pick them up, they're extremely light, very porous, and it looks totally different underneath them. So like I was saying, the differences between what's under the rock makes me wonder about the timeline on when the rock got there, if you will. Since these are volcanic products, I have to believe at one time there was a huge eruption that scattered rock, magma, whatever, I don't know the correct terms, but I'm just saying it scattered it everywhere. And some of the rocks are different. So I contacted the Forest Service, and a lot of those guys, they're geologists, botanists, biologists, but they have some background training, some formal training in this stuff. And as I was talking with them, and it was an interesting conversation because we talked about all of the volcanic activity that took place around here, you know, Sunrise Crater, the whole Mogollon Rim. The Mogollon Rim is just that, it's the rim of a volcano. But what they pointed out was the initial event may have scattered stuff all through here. But the rocks that were more porous were probably the ones that were blown directly out of the volcano. The other rocks, and I have an example of them here somewhere, you can actually see flow. You can see flow marks in the rock where it may have gone down the volcano. And so some of these rocks are both dense and heavier, and they may have come here maybe at a different time as a result of whatever event scattered them. While some of the lighter rocks, as the rangers pointed out, may actually have migrated here through centuries of weather, such as flooding, and then you got the whole snow and snow melt cycle that could cause them to come down the hill. And I'm going to tell you, behind me, this is quite a hill. It doesn't look like it at first because it's a gradual slope. But once you get past a certain point right up there, the slope does become a bit more dramatic. Trust me, I walked up there putting up a trail cam, hoping to catch some good wildlife pictures for you guys. But at any rate, the snow melt, the flooding may have brought the porous, lighter rocks tumbling down. And that's why there's this difference that you'll see in the pictures I post with this. But I just found it very interesting. You know, when we go throughout the forest, we always kind of study the things in the forest, the small things like the picture of the mullein that's this tall, really beautiful mullein. There's some first-year plants that haven't produced the stalk yet. There's some first-year mullein plants that were this big around, so they're huge. And there's a couple of little other things I'm going to show you. So go with me for a little hike, and let's learn some more and hear the stories of this forest. Okay, so this is going to be out of sequence. I had to edit the video heavily because you're looking at about 2 hours worth of wandering out in the woods. And I'm back in camp now doing the editing, and it's a cool morning. My throat's raw, so we're sitting around a campfire, and I just wanted to let you know if the video has jumps in it from one segment to another, it's because I'm putting about 2.5 hours into about 15 or 20 minutes. So hope you enjoy the rest of the trip. So, thing about the Ponderosa pines, a couple of little interesting facts. They're easy to distinguish from many other pines. First of all, their needles are in clusters of 3. Okay, there's a lot of other pines that are, but their bark grows in almost a checkerboard sort of pattern. The bark segments, like this, they grow out, and it's a very thick bark that's in segmented pieces like this. And the bark actually protects the tree through natural wildfires. Though the brush underneath may be burned up, which is a good thing, every so often nature cleans itself, the bark protects the tree. Another interesting thing about these, okay, there'll be no tree hugger jokes or folks out kissing trees. The ponderosa pine, when you smell the bark, actually smells a bit like vanilla. So there you go. That's 3 things to identify this as a ponderosa. It's the only one, I believe, that has that unique smell. All right, I'm going to do this a little bit handheld off the tripod because I want you to see these 2 trees right here. And I apologize for the lighting. It's an overcast day and I'm shooting up the hill into the sky. But the tree on the left, we're going to go up and take a little closer look at it. If I can do it without stumbling on these little round rolly rocks. This tree most likely was blighted with something because of the color of the bark. Ooh, goodness. The color of the bark. And it broke off way up there. But these trees are just so grandiose. They're so huge. But this gives you a better idea of what I was saying about that bark and the segments right here. And as you can see, I'm going to try to peek in. I hope nothing comes out at me. Yeah, there's a home in there for something. I'll turn the light on. See if I can peek in there with a little more light. Yeah, I don't know. Can't see very far in the hole. The hole's not incredibly deep, but I would say it's one of these little tiny woodpeckers we have out here. This is home. What I'm showing you right now is when you wander through the forest, you look at the changes, you look at the changes in the foliage, in the trees, on the ground, and this particular spot kind of caught my eye right here. You notice how much greener it looks? Now, if I was a grazing animal, such as a deer or an elk, the edge of that nice, fresh green grass is probably somewhere I would want to go to. So that caused me to walk over here and check it out. And I mean, look at that. That is a beautiful, beautiful green. What self-respecting animal would not graze on that? And there's evidence of it because right here in the midst of all of it, yep, you guessed it, more poopy. More poopy means there was an animal here. And since this one didn't have tissue paper around it, it wasn't human. But this is one of the things that you learn to look for as you walk through the forest. You look at the changes in the vegetation. Not only the type, but the color. You know, some places it's going to be more green, more rich. And so this is part of what I do when I'm out walking around. I'm going to bend over for a second. You guys bear with me. Look at what I found. Come on, camera, focus up. Another one of those rocks. This is so light. I mean, it's incredibly light. And where I picked it up from the ground, that hole right there, you can see there's very little deterioration under it. And the bottom of the rock has no marking on it either. I stumbled on it while I was headed this way, looking to see what this is right here. Oh yeah. Now see, I'm going to tell you, I lean towards the belay family with this one, but I don't know. Here's another chunk of it. Some of the amanettas out here are kind of colored that way. And my philosophy is, if you can't positively identify what kind it is, don't mess with it. Let it continue to grow. You don't eat it. I know, all mushrooms are edible once. That's the point. Okay, hi guys, I'm out here And this tree was obviously not part of the forest thinning and restoration program that the forest people do to help promote good growth within the forest. This one, it suffered some kind of natural calamity. And what's unique about, or different about this, I don't know about unique, but the cool thing about this, one of the rangers said, yeah, that particular tree's been there quite a while. I was asking them about the deterioration rate that the biological materials here have going back into the soil. He said this particular tree has been here approximately in this position 80 years. 80 years. Now, there are pieces of it that have gone into absolute punkwood. There are pieces of it that are pretty stout. This particular Ponderosa pine must have suffered a pretty quick demise, because I don't find a whole lot of what we call fat wood, fat lightered. There is a little bit of sap where it maybe tried to repair itself from an injury. But typically when these pine trees are injured, they'll produce the fat wood. They'll concentrate the sap into a particular spot. And this one, like I said, there's places where the top side has been exposed to sun and rain and snow, and it is kind of soft and punky. You know, it falls apart. But there are other sections that are just as hard as a rock. So you can see that it did suffer a natural demise. It wasn't thinned. So I just found this very interesting that the deterioration rate here is such that it takes a very long time for things to begin to break down, which, going back to my rocks, one of them had been there much longer than the other one, because it had almost returned to soil underneath it. Just a little tidbit. This is about the average height right now of all the second year mullein that's out here in the field. Like I said, the other ones are way up there. Beautiful flowers, not very many bugs. Wonderful plant to make tinctures and oils and medicines with. And so with that, you guys get out, be safe, go adventure.